The genre that we're going to focus on this week is Fables. Fables a fiction story and it's meant to teach a lesson. A type of fable is trickster tales, and they are imaginative stories in which one character tricks another character. You guys are familiar with this, with that fable, The Tortoise and the Hare. Fables teach a lesson called a moral. Fables teach a lesson called a moral that people should apply to their lives. Sometimes the moral is stated at the end of the fable. Characters in fables are usually animals. Trickster tales include a clever character who knows more than he or she lets on. So when we're talking about fables today, we're going to focus on author's purpose. That ties into our moral. What is the author wanting you to learn? Down here it says, look at the pictures of the characters in the two stories. What are some things that you would like to know about these characters? So I'm going to give you 30 seconds to look at this picture, and you're going to turn and talk with a buddy about what you would like to know about these characters. Go. All right, we're going to wrap up that conversation in 3, 2, 1. The first fable that we're going to read is titled The Fox and the Crow.
The Fox and the Crow by Aesop. A fox once saw a crow fly off with a piece of cheese in its beak and settle on a branch of a tree. "That's for me, as I am a fox," said Master Fox, and he walked up to the foot of the tree. "Good day, Mistress Crow," he cried. "How well you are looking today! How glossy your feathers! How bright your eye! I feel sure your voice must surpass that of other birds, just as your figure does. Let me hear but one song from you, that I may greet you as the Queen of Birds."
So we're going to pause here. Why do you think the author included the fox giving all of these compliments to this crow? So here we have the fox trying to persuade the crow to give him the cheese without actually telling him to give him the cheese. And so he's using flattery, or he's using these compliments to make the crow feel good about herself.
The crow lifted up her head and began to caw her best. But the moment she opened her mouth, the piece of cheese fell to the ground, only to be snapped up by Master Fox. "That will do," said he. "That was all I wanted. In exchange for your cheese, I will give you a piece of advice for the future. Do not trust flatterers."
So notice right down here, this fable includes the moral of the story. Do not trust flatterers. What does that mean? This could mean that if someone is just giving a bunch of compliments, they may be wanting something in return. What do you think the author's purpose was for including this line? That was all I wanted. The author wants us to know that the fox did not mean those compliments that he was giving to the crow. He was just trying to flatter her so she can open her mouth and sing. He was trying to trick her and persuade her to drop the cheese. Let's look at the next fable. This one is titled Raven and Crayfish.
Raven and Crayfish by John and Caitlin Matthews. Flying home to his nest one day, Raven spied a succulent crayfish swimming in the lake below. He swooped down and caught the fat crayfish in his beak, thinking of the feast he would have when he came to his treetop home. Crayfish was terrified. Knowing that she was seconds away from becoming a raven's dinner, she began to speak as calmly and sweetly as she could. "Oh, great and powerful Raven, I'm so pleased to meet you. You know, I had supper with your father and mother a little while ago. What a delightful couple."
What was the author's purpose for including these compliments here? What do you think the crayfish is trying to do? He's trying to convince or persuade this raven to let her go using flattery, just like in the last fable.
"Agoo," said Raven, because his beak was firmly shut, holding tight to his dinner. "And I have often noticed how enchanting your brothers and sisters are. What a handsome family," continued Crayfish. Succulent. If food is succulent, it is juicy and tasty. Agoo," said Raven, his beak clamped shut, looking forward to supper time. "Of course, they are all majestic," said Crayfish, "but none is your equal. You are the cleverest raven. No, that is not enough. You are the cleverest creature of all creatures since the world's creation." Delighted by this flattery, Raven opened his beak to agree. Before he could say a word, Crayfish wriggled free and fell back into the lake below, disappearing into the deep, dark water. That night, the cleverest creature of all creatures since the world's creation had to go without his dinner. Clamped. When something is clamped, it is closed tightly.
Why do you think the author included this line right here? Delighted by his flattery, Raven opened his beak to agree. This line is giving us the moral. This is where our moral is going to come from. Just like in the last fable, again, we have the same moral, but this line gives us a hint of that moral before the fable even ends. Which line describes what type of character the raven is? Our very last line here. That night, the cleverest creature of all creatures since the world's creation had to go without his dinner. So the cleverest creature of all creatures. That is describing the raven, and it is also a type of figurative language. So what is this? Cleverest creature of all creations. In alliteration. So you are going to think back on what you discussed with a partner about what you wanted to know about these characters. And then you're going to work with that partner to answer the questions below. These questions will be on the next slides. Make sure to refer to details and examples in A Pair of Tricksters to explain your answers. So you're going to use both of those fables that we read, think back on them, and use details from those texts, those fables, to answer these questions. Question number 1, reread page 116. What do you learn about Fox from what he says to Crow? So what kind of character is he? What do you learn about his character? Number 2, review pages 118 through 120. Who does Crayfish talk about first? And why does she call Raven the cleverest creature of all creatures? And number 3, In what ways are these two stories alike? And what ways are they different? So you're going to compare and contrast. Again, you are able to work with a partner on this. Make sure that if you're in class, your partner is next to you and you're staying in your area. Also, everyone is responsible for typing in your own answers to your own slide. So although you're discussing it with a buddy and working with a buddy, you're responsible for typing them into your slide so you can turn in your assignment. Okay, if you have any questions, please let me know.